All right, so this evening we have Catherine Wasmann, and she's from the Pima County Rescue Recovery Divers, and she's going to tell us all about the organization and maybe some fun stories and scary stories, and how if you want to get involved, you can get involved and help out. All right, come on up, Catherine.
I don't know if I'm going to tell any scary stories.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Where's the music coming from?
Ready to go. Before I get started, I want to call out a couple of our members here. Where do I need to be? Right about there. Right here? Okay, I'm a wanderer. I'm sorry. I know. Am I in? How about that? John Longhofer and Tom Faulkner are both members of Pima County Search and Recovery Divers, and when the request came in, they did not raise their hands. Okay, I'm just going to start there. So to get me,
Kathy might have to hold the mic a little closer.
even almost on top of
There we go.
it.
Yeah, we got it now.
Does this thing have a on-off? There we go. How about that? Off the screen? Someone go off the screen. There we go. It's just it's like my brain with this phone. Okay, so I'm Catherine Wasmann. I happen to be, unfortunately, president of Pima County Search and Recovery Divers for the last several years. I'll put this up and we'll come back to this particular operation and why I might look so serious or perturbed. But I won't go into that now. You might recognize Jerry Hurd to my left, carrying extra weights and something we hardly ever use, the dive light for me. Search and Recovery Divers has been in existence for approximately 60 years or a little bit more, if we're not too clear. I've been in about 40 years. That's why I have all the gray hair. We are a 501c3 organization, so we are a non-profit. This is me. I already talked about that. I want to start with a little description about how search and rescue. Now, we are not a rescue organization. We are a recovery organization. This has certain legal implications, which I will not go into tonight, regarding how we might be reimbursed for damaged equipment. In the state of Arizona, under Title 11, search and rescue operations are the express responsibility of the individual sheriffs. Therefore, it goes by county. And it is in the statute that the sheriff may use whatever resources he chooses, and it says including volunteers. So in this county, which is very well organized, underneath the sheriff and sort of a umbrella organization is the Search and Rescue Council Incorporated. And every component group, which are listed across in the next line, has 2 members on this council. The council sets minimum standards for participating in calls. And yes, we have a lot of boxes that need X's. And we vet organizations that think that they would like to do something related to search and rescue in southern Arizona. That's a really high bar because we don't duplicate resources, and we have everything pretty much covered. The next line, Southern Arizona Rescue Association. You guys have seen these ones. They're the ones in the orange shirts. They are a ground rescue and technical rescue organization. I am a 40-year member there as well. Pima County Search and Recovery Divers, Civil Air Patrol, which is federal and is not covered by the statute. They mostly chase emergency landing transponders, which are generally found in car trunks. Next down are the doggies and search and rescue dogs. Very good group, air trackers, trailing dogs. One dog that is extremely talented at archaeological bones, hundreds to 1,000 years old. And the last group is SAMSAR, which is a mounted search and rescue unit, which has replaced the sheriff's posse. These are the groups that carry out search and rescue in southern Arizona. Yep. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. Tonight, I want to talk briefly about who we are, and very briefly about that. I've already covered some of it. The kinds of things that we do, where we go, in some cases where we have gone. Very brief. The kinds of equipment that we bring to an operation. It's a lot. As you can imagine, there's a lot of equipment required. I want to then touch briefly on how things have changed over the years, some of the new equipment and techniques that we are currently using to some effect. And I want to end with a couple of war stories. There will be no body recovery war stories because, well, some people are sensitive to that, and I do not wish to go there. I was told this should take only 30 minutes, and we'll see how it goes. So, in way of who we are as people, these are some of the professions that we have in our real lives. Some of these people are quite accomplished. Our retired naval officer has almost a PhD in nuclear engineering. He is also an inactive dive instructor. You all know John. He's a dive instructor. Jerry Herr is a member of the group. She is a dive instructor, and they can offer a lot to us, including Emergency Response Diver 1, the PADI version. Most of us have from Dive Rescue International. There's Tom, landscape contractor, who's been spending too much time in my backyard lately. I am the plant pathologist, retired from the U. So as you can see, in general, we have a lot of education, which can be interesting sometimes because we all have opinions. What do we do? Well, one of the things we do, and I will admit, we are not terribly successful at, is evidence search. So we might be looking for a piece of a weapon, which we are actually doing here, although I don't think it was that particular piece of a weapon. This diver is in about 2 feet of water right now. You can probably see the tether line coming out. Solo diver, we're always tethered these days. That's the new standard, as is the pony tank. For somebody my size, a full 80 in a pony tank is a pain in the, well, it's a pain. This person is in the shallow water at this site, which is Silverbell. We've managed to find the bullet casings that went with the weapon that the Borstar guys had in their pattern. Lucky stiffs. We spent 2 days out there because we had the wrong location to look the first time. Eventually, we got to deeper water. We hauled out the metal detectors, and this is a slog. I know it sounds great, but we have to lay out very precise patterns, and I spent probably 5 hours in the water doing, I don't know, 100, 200, 3-foot bounce dives, because they find something and you have to go down and dig around in the mud until you can come up with what it is. You would be amazed how many bottle caps, soda cans, pull tabs, and other miscellaneous items are in our lakes. Even this lake where swimming and boating are not allowed. Weapons are common. The problem that we have finding them is not that we're not any good, it's that we get called perhaps a year later. And the thing is now 6 inches deep in packed silt. And you never know that where the subject said they threw it is true. So we never know if we're just going to be chasing our tails. We have done tests to determine roughly what our probability of detection is. And under good conditions like this with pieces of things that are, say, weapon sized or parts of weapon. They almost always partially disassemble them. It's 55% on a single pass. This is the other thing we do, actually, traditionally has been the major part of our work, and that is body recoveries. This is Lakeside Park. The person closest to me is, well, he's my husband now. He wasn't then, but he was one of our SAR deputies that we trained up in search and recovery. That's Deputy Doug Miravold, badge number 398. In the back, that bald head that you see, that's somebody you might recognize. That's Ray Gundy, who was a member, and even after they stopped being active members, he and Lisa were big time supporters.
And they are members of the club.
Yes, I believe they do. And I've been I've stayed with them down there. They're good people. Traditionally, we've done a lot of this kind of work, especially out on the reservation in the cattle tanks, which are almost as nice to dive in as it sounds like. They are 200 feet across, 15 feet deep, totally black and full of cow shit. They're lovely. This is another thing we do quite a bit. We're back at Lakeside here. This is a pretty classic scenario. This vehicle has partially been removed. We're going to remove it the rest of the way. It has been perimeter searched when it was submerged. Okay. And that is everything is considered a crime scene. So we want to see if there's anything down there. We'll do a cursory search inside the vehicle to see if we have a subject inside. We did not. This is pretty classic. This vehicle was stolen in Texas, driven here, and then launched off a bluff, which you will see later on the east side of Lakeside. And usually they put a rock on the accelerator, and it takes off. It clears a 1-foot stem wall and launches itself into the lake. This one was spotted because the headlights were just long enough for somebody to spot it. So there was no one in it, and we are in the process of getting ready to finish. But we have pulled a lot of vehicles, well, not a lot. We have pulled a number of vehicles out of Lakeside, including one that nobody knew was in there that we found on sonar. Where we go? Well, basically the short answer is by request anywhere in Arizona. Now, like the other component groups that I showed you earlier, we are separately incorporated. We can respond without the sheriff, but then we are not covered for workman's comp or anything else. And I have done a recovery in Mexico, which was interesting. It was south of the border. We had the liaison from Pima County Sheriff's Department. We had 3 divers, and we were told it was a small body of water. And when we got over the bluff and could see it, it looked like the Pacific Ocean. It was enormous, and there were 2 1-gallon buoys out in the middle of this huge lake. And it was 2 guys tried to swim. One didn't make it. One watched his friend go down. And it's the best point last seen I've ever seen in 40 years. That kid was amazing. He must have been traumatized beyond belief. We were the guests of Sonora. The Attorney General's office was there. And we, miracle of miracles, picked him up on the first pattern. But they had no motorboat that worked. And so it was, eventually they came up with one and were able to tow us all in with the remains. I've done recoveries in Yavapai. I've looked for evidence in Yavapai. County and some of these other counties as well. All right, so you can probably imagine as divers that there's a fair amount of gear involved. We have two boats. We have a 30-foot tri-pontoon boat, which we built, 2 or 3 of us built from scratch. It's not a party boat, I'm sorry, guys. It's not a party boat. It is a working boat, okay? It's got an 8-foot wide deck. It has a 150 horsepower deep shaft Merc on it, 4-cylinder, which we got from the Casey Johnson Foundation, which I'm not going to talk about. Unfortunately, they are now not in operation. And then we have a small, looks like we imported it from Mexico, 13-foot Boston whaler that has seen some very tough times, but is very nice to run about. That Boston whaler, we broke it once in Mexico, got a big crack in it, and it's been completely re-glassed. It's on its 3rd motor since I've known it, I think. And it's great for, ferrying things around. Most of the work gets done off of the pontoon boat, which we also have shade on. Divers are responsible for less and less these days. When I say the usual, I mean no mask, because we provide that. No BCD, because we're providing that. Wetsuit or dry suit, weight belt, gloves, hood, booties, fins. Everything else is now, these days, is group gear. In a way, this is good. We now have funding, which we didn't have up until 6 months ago. We're now pretty flush with cash, thanks to being in the will of one highly cherished person and her sister. So in addition to that, each diver will be wearing a chest harness, a full face mask. We are using the Interspiro Divator Mark II. It is equipped with a buddy phone. They will have a pony tank, which you've seen. They will have a gas switching block so that they can switch to the reserve without removing anything. Buddy line and tether. In terms of what we might have safety, and this isn't everything, and other gear, we're going to have topside communications that can talk to the divers can talk to each other. We did this many years ago, I think about 1991, we started using that mask. Some of us personally own. I can't hardly stand to do standard scuba anymore. Dell knows this. PFDs, radios, DAN oxygen, an AED, various medical equipment. I myself am a EMT. All of our members have to carry a medical certification and CPR for the professional rescuer. Buoys, pivot weights, line weights, sonar, kitchen sink, and sense of humor. That's not everything, but it gives you a flavor. For example, all the rope and everything we're diving primarily black water. So we have to set patterns, and we are always following a rope, right? And then the system gets moved, right, with overlap. Otherwise, I can tell you what happens. I've watched people try to essentially pre-dive, and they just do this. They go around in little tiny circles, because I don't know if you've ever done this test. It's worth doing in a pool. You black yourself out and just swim, and everybody will swim in circles. Everybody has a preferred direction that they go. So you can't just drop down and think that you're going to do any sort of regular search. So one of the changes that we've done is go to the pony tanks, tethers to the surface. That is the modern standard. However, if you look at film clips of almost every other dive team in the US, they will not be diving all of that. They may have trained in it, they don't use it. We do use it here. We are in black water most of the time, so it's a safety factor. The other thing that we've started doing is we are now using sonar. Our original sonar unit was like a hummingbird fishing one, and it was very good, but the emitter was in one direction. So you had to be pretty tricky when you passed. Our new sonar is a 360 emitter. It will actually paint a subject if you are stationary. This is a lakeside. And you can see right away two things. These are two divers here. You can see them on the screen. Hope this will work here. Let me see. Not quite bright enough. Anyway, those are two divers. That's what they look like. That's the good news. The bad news is that water is only 15 feet deep.
Is this working?
I don't know. I thought it was, but it doesn't show up on the screen. Anyway.
Oh, it wasn't on.
Oh, okay. Is it good?
In fact, your switcher may work now too.
Yeah, that's okay. Whoa. Yes, it does work. They're very close together. So this is two divers, and yeah, we can see them. You can tell they're divers, right? But it's 15 feet of water. The maximum effective depth for this unit right now is about 30 feet. Other than that, you can't distinguish anything. Now, we did find a drowning victim, Fort Cochise County in Patagonia Lake, right outside the boat basin, with our sonar. We didn't put divers in the water, and I won't describe what happened with them trying to find the body. They surfaced because they didn't think they could bring it up, and they didn't buoy it, so then they couldn't find it again. So you can see that one of the things you get is the, sorry, that's, all right, wrong way. The buttons are very close together. You can see the boat trace there on the right. It gives you the pattern of where the boat was running and direction of travel for the boat. We can also mark an object and get a pretty precise GPS on it, which is very useful. And we have attempted to use it to find the inlet for the outlet in Patagonia, but we ended up finding that a number of years ago by accident because two of us fell into it and discovered it was a lot deeper than we had planned to dive for. So the equivalent ocean depth was 110 feet. Dive was planned for 11 minutes at 65 feet. And well, we needed, by the time we ran the tables, the altitude tables that we used, we needed a 6-minute decompression stop, which we hadn't done. So we have some interesting times. This is the sort of thing that our sonar can do for us. This is clearly a vehicle. I think that plume coming off the top probably could be air. I'm not really sure what it is. But this is once again Lakeside, which is a place that people love to go to dump vehicles. He's in about 14 feet of water, which is pretty typical. That's about where they end up when they launch. This is the slope they launch off of. Doesn't look like much. You'll notice if you look at the face, stop it. Look at the face here, there's a stem wall. It's maybe a foot high. That doesn't stop them. They just fly over that. If anything, it probably launches them. They go flying out into this thing, and of course they float for a little bit, right? And so they'll float out and then they'll settle. So standard operating procedure for this would be to do a perimeter search. The door is open to let the water out as you pull it out of the water. So that was another recovery from it's actually officially Charles Ford Lakeside Park. So I'm going to do a couple war stories here and then entertain all kinds of discussion, I hope, because I haven't covered anything about what you need to join or who we're interested in, right? At least some of you, I hope, might be interested, particularly if you have less gray hair than I have.
We are all interested. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Here we go. So that first picture of myself where I look very serious and disgruntled, and yes, obviously we allow pink wetsuits, was because of this. So my husband and I were at a pizza shop just off campus, sitting down to a lovely 16-ounce beer and a pizza with my boss. And we're going to attend the U of O game, who we're playing Oregon. Oregon is my home. That's my school. That's where I did my undergraduate work. So very interested in that. I hadn't eaten all day, and we got a call. Now, my husband in those days was a SAR deputy, so he is essentially obligated to go. So we went. And it turned out that we were going to be searching a CAP irrigation culvert that was 150 feet completely enclosed. Lovely. And I note the dive light. It's one of the few instances where the dive light actually did anything because the water wasn't too bad. We actually had pretty good visibility when we got into the structure. But 200 feet in an enclosed environment does sort of get to you eventually. I was very glad when we came out. We're getting ready to enter here. The green tank is my husband.
What is CAP?
CAP. Central Arizona Project Canal brings water from the Colorado through Lake Pleasant and then down here. Okay. We have done operations in there as well. This was an offshoot of the main canal. So we did a 200-footer here. And you might ask yourself, well, why? What could they possibly be looking for? Two reasonably intelligent people. We were looking for something that might be attached to this. This was at one end of the tunnel. Now, I look at that and I say, nobody's been reported missing. It's clearly been in the water for, a couple, 3 years, right? But the sheriff just wouldn't let it rest. So we had to swim this. I don't think the sheriff realized that this is a relatively risky operation. Anyway, there wasn't anything in there. It was as clean as a whistle, except at the ends, which you saw. Also, the entry was interesting. We had to use ladders in and out. It's almost as much.
Was the diameter?
It was plenty wide. It was maybe 6-8 feet.
That's not very wide.
Yeah, we had room, and we got about halfway through, and I'm going, this isn't any fun anymore. It was interesting initially, but this isn't fun anymore. And I went, what if we run out of air? Because this was before we started diving ponies. And I looked up, and we had about 5 inches of headspace, and I went, oh, okay. Of course, it might not have been breathable. We didn't test it, but yeah, I thought this was a little different than what we normally do, and it came out okay. The next one is kind of just fun. John had a major part in this. Came down in the middle of the week. Remember this one, John? Settling ponds at Granite.
Oh, yeah.
So Granite has 3 settling ponds that they use to provide clearer water for filling trucks and things like that for construction purposes and making concrete. Okay, so this is the setup. We had just enough people to actually do this operation. This is a more modern standard operation. That's the straight out of Mexico 13-foot Boston whaler. John is labeled primary diver there. The incident commander is always going to be a sheriff deputy. There's a safety diver in the back, and I don't remember who it was. Maybe John does. Do you remember? Was it Joe? Oh, it might have been Jerry. I don't know. I'm the line tender because thankfully I wasn't feeling well that day and I wasn't diving. And then we have a boat captain. So we really have to have a safety diver, okay, that can go in case the person gets in trouble. You can see that John has a tether on him, a line that I'm managing. We do get certified in line tending. And so you want to go, what's going on here? Well, a group of, I don't know who, stole a bakery delivery truck, like a Sprinter van. And they drove it out to this settling pond and drove it into the water, but it didn't go far enough. So then they went over and they got one of the D7 cats. Now the D7, it turns out I didn't know this, but you would think they would hide the keys, but no, they were probably in the ignition. They fired it up, raised the bucket, and tried to push the van further into the water. And then it got trapped. The van is trapped under the bucket. And it turns out that the caterpillar is also trapped. So John, bless his heart, he drew the short straw that day. He is doing the perimeter search, okay? So he goes around and he does the perimeter search and finds nothing. Was full of racks and everything. I mean, they lost some change. Unfortunately, I don't have as many photos of this because it was truly unique for us. We've now removed this bulldozer using another bulldozer. They brought in another D7, pulled the first D7 out, leaving the van. You can see a little piece of it there. And John is, I think, just finishing making the hookup. You can see what lovely stuff is. It's not exactly what Patty thinks when they teach search and rescue, right? This isn't what they had in mind. And he makes the hookup. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture of it coming out, but here he's handing off the rope it's actually a cable and a chain, I think. Yeah, was it? Yeah, and he's handing off to the tow truck diver. We nearly destroyed this thing because it's pretty good in the silt, even though it only been there a few hours. And we pulled pretty much the whole front end out of it. As you can see, the interesting thing is that granite told us it's in 35 feet of water. Turns out we sonared this thing. The deepest spot we could find was about 12 or 15 feet. They are all silted in, which was their job actually, right? They're all silted in, and granite goes, oh, darn. So I don't know what they've done with that information, but their settling ponds are no longer 35 feet deep. That's really all I have to give you an overview. I'm willing to entertain all kinds of questions. I left a bunch of stuff out so that we can have a discussion, okay? So feel free, I'm sure. Yeah.
How many times annually do you guys get called out to do this type of thing? Anything that involves?
We do live in the desert.
Please repeat the question.
Yeah, Dale wants, what's presidents, we have to recognize each other. Dale wants to know how often we are called. The answer is not often. We live in the desert, and it's less frequent now than it was when, let's say, 20 years ago. Traditionally, we average about 1 to 1.5 calls a year, almost entirely body cut recoveries, but we train every month. So right now we're doing our dry training, which is we're doing the equipment, checking intermediate pressures, doing things like looking at our gas switching blocks, which are Kirby Morgan's, altitude tables, because we are diving at altitude. And it turns out that our newer divers can't run basic repetitive tables because they're not being taught anymore. So we frequently have to do a little bit of remedial stuff, and for some reason that I don't understand, Tables always cause people a lot of problems. We are using Navy dive tables and the cross tables, and they are staged by altitude every 1,000 feet. So, yeah,
Why aren't you using computers?
don't know what the algorithm is. Have no clue. They're all based on modeling. You don't know. Probably.
As are the tables.
Huh?
As are the tables.
Yeah, but they're based on real people in a chamber, hundreds of them. So I took a dive recovery seminar once, we did 16 dives in 2 days, three deep a day. And the guy stood up and he says, you realize your computers, some of them only have 4 dives on them, and then they're marketed. So for our purposes, we're using tried and true cross tables to calculate that. But we start with the repetitive tables because we are repetitive divers on arrival. Okay, so if we go to Patagonia Lake, we have to go up and then we go down. So that is a 5,000 foot dive, and your tables are based on oceans, saltwater, not freshwater at altitude. So what happens is pretty soon your 40-foot dive is now a 60-foot ocean equivalent dive, and you started as a D diver. So now you're a repetitive diver. So, thank you. So we've always used tables. And we firmly believe in those. We have some computers, we use them as bottom timers. But our times are kept on the surface because actually, a good chunk of the time, we can't see our gauges.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say? Therefore your computer does you very little good.
Well, you can get the computer in the back so you can see it. But
Yeah, but we're not interested in that. It keeps it simple, I think. There's a lot of reliance on computers, and we're gonna probably not change. Although I do use them when I'm sport diving for sure, but that's a much simpler scenario. Anybody else? Yes.
Yes, there's a lot of the numbers and a lot of the statistics, and my biggest wow is that you deal with a lot of death and part of the struggle living with the living.
This is why I didn't show some of the recoveries.
Yeah.
They're heartbreaking. I think the most heartbreaking occur on the Indian reservations. We haven't been seeing those lately. They may have built some pools out there, but they'll try to swim across a paddle tank in the summer in blue jeans and not make it. One guy had a seizure, but the entire village, family, grandmothers and everything will come out and watch, and they are so grateful, and it is just heartbreaking. But it's one of the reasons we do it. Now, I will also say, if you're thinking, all right, how long have the remains, been there, and like, are we pulling out, pieces? The answer is no. We are largely, we get called fairly quickly, so they're intact, remarkably good shape. Most of them are like this. In fact, they feel with gloves on, the first person who grabs them, the first question you always ask yourself is, all right, is that the subject or my buddy's wetsuit clad arm? They feel very similar. Okay. But I've done a lot of body recoveries now over the years, and it is the reason we do it. Right. Excuse me?
You go to Pleasant?
Have not been to Lake Pleasant for an operation. That would be covered by Maricopa County. Maricopa County has a lot of diving deputies, and they have a posse. Now, for many years, the real expertise up there was their posse members, because they had oodles of dives and lots of experience. And that is, in fact, how the Casey Johnson Foundation started. A subject was drowned in, I think, Powell, down near the dam where it's quite deep. And the family realized there was really no organization that was willing and capable of undertaking a recovery. We eventually found him, I believe, using a submersible ROV. So they started a foundation designed to help support public safety divers, right? And we did benefit from that with the 150 horsepower Merc that we run our pontoon boat with. Yes.
So thank you for being here and God bless you.
No.
My question
And if you don't have more questions,
No,
that's
the
all I
question-
have.
I think you answered. The question was, how do we support the club?
Well, good thoughts always help. We're always looking for members, committed members. We have basically two groups. We have surface support, and we love our surface support people. Tom is surface support. And then we have divers, and John is a diver, although he's had some issues lately. Those of us, like myself, we've been doing it a long time. We have a lot of experience. But we kind of figure we're getting a little old to do this kind of diving, right? I'm pretty fit. Actually, I'm beyond pretty fit, but
Yes, you are.
you know, because I'm a member of the ground pounders too, and I can still keep up with the kids. So carrying 30 pounds, although I probably feel a lot worse. You know, you can go to the website. You can call anybody you know, like John or Tom, and say you're interested. And John sends out an information packet. You know, if you wanted to give him your name tonight, that'd be great. I'm going to warn you, there are a lot of X's and boxes. Okay. Surface support, you do not need to be a diver, although it's certainly very helpful. We can provide most of the training, virtually all of the training. In fact, we could certify people as scuba divers. We prefer they come in with that. We prefer that they have advanced open water at the very least. It turns out that it seems counterintuitive, but highly qualified, say, instructors have not proven to be particularly beneficial to the organization because they have preconceived notions of how to do stuff. And they're harder sometimes to train, okay? And they don't speak well. It's not sexy, there's nothing sexy about it. John can send you an information packet, so that would be support, and the other side is divers. We can provide training up through the PADI, emergency response diver, all the way up to the top of that heap. John and Jerry are both able to do that. We have a medical, some medical training that's required. The bar there is not very high, although people like Tom have outdoor emergency care as their, which we accept. Sarah doesn't. That is National Ski Patrol's certification. That's a really good wilderness medical course. Used to be essentially an EMT. It isn't anymore, but it's still excellent for remote locations. I'm an EMT and an instructor for outdoor emergency care. The minimum right now is the SARC minimum. That is a 25-hour wilderness first aid plus CPR for the professional rescuer. Okay. And we can offer that in-house. Yes, thanks to John and Jerry, we can offer it in-house. However, we look with disfavor if we think somebody is just collecting things for their CV, which happens a lot in the rescue groups in general. We're really looking for people like you who are committed, right? And we'll stick with it. We're having a really tough time, as are all the rescue groups and the police and the fire guys, getting people to come in and stick with it, right? It takes a while to get good at this and to understand and know how we do it. John, comments? I mean, any comments from my two peanut gallery friends here?
Yeah, if you're looking for something unusual and would like to find some new stuff, this is a really great way to do that. But you're also providing service to the community, which I think is important. our group gets along pretty well, and we know everybody's weaknesses and strengths, because we've been diving so long with each other. And it's one of those things where when you're in the water, you're really trusting our service support. You know, how long have I been on the water? What is my depth by radar? Or basically they can see the tanks, so they kind of have an idea of what can't be modeling 3 or 4 feet. Or if it's deeper, then they'll be able to throw radar and kind of get an idea of how deep we are. It is something that we've actually had a few people that have come up and go, what is all this? And as they find out diving in black water and diving in these conditions, sometimes it's not for the weak.
Yeah, it's,
Kathy, can you kind of repeat what John said?
I think what I would agree, I think Tom would agree. It's a great way to do something new. It's always interesting. The group as a whole, we get along really well together. We're a very small group. We've known each other for a long time. We know everybody's strengths and everybody's weaknesses, right? And over the years, we have found, and I have incredibly large number of times, people think that they know what black water is. Sorry, they don't. Nobody would ever dive in some of this stuff unless it was their job, because you can't tell if your light is on if you hold it here, because it's black because it's deeper and there's algae and things in the water column, but it's also black because most of our lakes have a 3-foot deep silt, and if that gets stirred up, it's silt. So that's one of the reasons you don't see us using, although we're talking about it, using underwater cameras, because the backscatter is horrendous. It would be nice. Some lakes are better than others. You never know. You never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. To quote, yeah. But we love having new members, and we are actively, looking for committed people. And like I said, we love our surface support guys. These guys are not just extras; they're full members of the team. Okay. Yeah.
So you might tell them a little bit about, we start everybody off as service support.
Yeah.
And make sure you understand how that works, how to set up search patterns, lines. And then when you feel that you're ready to get in the water and dive, then we're going to work with you on, we're doing a full face mask. We haven't done that.
Yeah. So we do
We're
train.
doing a different setup in regards to our fully bottles and our air blocks and.
We don't, it's not like the old school where if your dad wanted you to swim, he tossed you in the pool, right? No, we start people out for level of comfort, roughly a year surface support. As I said, we do use these patterns on the bottom, several of them. We have been known to try a jack stick. It doesn't work very well for us. Once you get further out, there's too much drag. We can offer line tender. They will be tending lines. We can give them a certification in that. It takes about a year to get that under your belt, plus the altitude tables, and if they don't have CPR and all that, or medical. Also, they have to take AZ Basic, which is stupid. It's the state requirement, and it's for land-based search and rescue. And I hate to tell you, but we can't use GPSs or read maps down there. So the nav part of it is essentially, most of it, not applicable to us. They weren't thinking divers, but it's a requirement. We also have to take a one-time only course that is for the sheriff, that is their basic pre-plan for how they launch operations. Then eventually, if they're already diving, we'll start with pool sessions and run patterns in pools. not necessarily blacked out, then blacked out. We typically like to put at least 2 divers in together. One of them will be tethered. When we are, then we will move to a situation where the visibility is a foot or 2 or 3, maybe lakeside, out right off of the boat launch area. You don't get thrown in black water till we're pretty certain that it's okay for you, right? We don't want to spook anybody, right? And we have spooked people. We have definitely spooked people. But we didn't mean,
You couldn't mute it, John.
we didn't mean to, okay? And it can take you, 2-3 years before you're going to be fully dive qualified for an operation. And of course, the big thing there is nobody knows how they're going to do when they grab that body the first time and let it water. Okay? I mean, you don't. I mean, if you. And we can't plan for that. But we do a lot of hand holding and remedial training. The idea is to get a team that is fully trained and works well together and is not dangerous. We have never had an accident in 60 years. The only thing, we had one close call with me, I will admit, and we had 1 ear drain from one of the cattle tanks. And that's it.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay.